Hello and welcome back to another Amber Roots devlog. This time around I want to get a lot done having to do with attributes, stats, and a leveling up system. I've got a cup of coffee and I'm ready to go, so let's hop to it. Alright, so before I get started I'd like to explain a little bit about what I'm doing this time. So a few videos ago I talked about what I wanted to be the skill and ability system, and I had come up with these ability trees where the monsters could earn XP and unlock new abilities in those trees. However, I'm really beginning to question whether that's the best system for Amber Roots. Lately I've been thinking of doing a more traditional level-based system where your creatures are earning XP and leveling up. Partially because I think it'll be less complicated for the players, but also because I think it'll be less complicated to set up challenges for the players. What I mean by that is, if I'm looking to pit the player against a difficult monster, it's a lot easier to say, well, this is just a high-level monster, versus trying to figure out, well, what abilities does this monster have, etc., etc. There is something to be said about the interesting situations that not having any levels would create, but ultimately I'm not sure Amber Roots is the right game to experiment with that. So what I'm going to be working on is trying to do a more standard leveling and XP system. Something where during combat your monsters will earn XP, and if they have enough XP they'll level up. I'm going to be trying to implement that now, and I'll catch up when I've got something to show. Alright, so I've worked pretty hard on this for a few days, and I've come up with something that I'm pretty happy with so far. So let me show you what I've got. So if we go to the team screen, we can see our monsters here, and I've also got monsters in the ranch, and if we click on the summaries, now monsters have a level associated with them. Now we're not going to worry about skills for right now because that's something I'm going to have to overhaul with this new leveling system, so we're just going to ignore them. But now each monster has their own level, and I'm excited to show you guys what else I can do with that now. So let's get into some combat. Oh, I didn't mean to pull that many creatures, but okay. So if we go into combat here, it all works pretty much like before, except that now our health and mana are associated with our level. And it's super simple right now. Everybody has the same amount of health, same amount of mana, and that's because everybody's level 1. Now these values do change with level ups, but there was no thought whatsoever put into by how much. And so you'll see the values increase and whatnot, but obviously that all needs to be balanced out. Okay, so like I said, we are going to be ignoring abilities for now. We're just going to be attacking. Now the enemy monsters are also level 1, so they only have 20 HP like everybody else. Our attacks do 15 now because they're also taking into account our level, which means that our attacks will do more damage as we level up. So this round I should be able to take out all of the enemies here. And there we go, and you can see I've got some level ups going on here in the victory screen. Currently they're earning a ton of XP from these battles because I was testing out the XP bar, which if you hover over you can see they have a current amount of XP and an XP needed for the next level. The XP needed for the next level will increase from level to level, and the XP bar animation is actually what took me the longest out of all of this. Getting it to animate just right and have variable speed was really tough. And what I mean by variable speed is that if the monster is leveling a lot, that is if it's going from like level 1 to level 12, the XP bar moves really quickly. Whereas if it's not changing levels, or if it's only changing one level, the XP bar moves slower. But I'm pretty happy with how all of that is working. So let's look at our monster team a little bit. If we go back to the summary screens, we can see that the levels have been updated here. Dreyfos is level 12. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift around our team a little bit. The monsters that weren't in combat didn't get any XP, so they're still level 1. So we're going to take one of them with us. So I'll just remove one of these monsters and add Pengu. And now we're going to do a little bit more combat so you can see that variable speed on the XP bar hopefully a little bit closer. Also here, now you can see that the health and mana have increased for the monsters that are level 12 versus Pengu, who is level 1. Pengu still has the lower values. The attack power of the level 12 monsters has also increased, as you can see here. Now we can one-shot these guys because they're still level 1. And Pengu can't do it because he's still level 1 as well. Okay, and there you can see that Pengu's XP bar is moving a lot quicker than the other monsters because he had a lot more levels to level up. And that's pretty much what I've done, and I'm fairly happy with this. One thing I would like to add to this screen is some sort of indicator of how much XP you actually got in that fight for your monsters, but That should be pretty easy. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. If you watched the devlog that covered abilities and skills and the ability trees, you might be wondering how all of that is going to play into this. And the truth is, I'm not fully ready to discuss that yet, but rest assured that the monster classes and their roles in combat will still very much be a part of Amber Roots. It's just going to have to change the way it looks a little bit. I still want to give players the opportunity to customize their monsters and how they level up and what their strengths and weaknesses are. I just don't think I'm going to do it with a skill tree at this point. The next thing I'd like to work on is getting the monster encounters to be a little bit more interesting. So I'd like to have enemies that aren't only level 1 and maybe have a variable number of enemies appear rather than have it always be 4. So I'm going to work on that and I'll come back when I've got something to show. Alright, so I'm back and I've got some more stuff to show you guys. First of all, I changed the way the spawners work a little bit. As I was testing things, I realized it would be helpful if monsters were able to respawn after they've been defeated. So I've got that working now, where a spawner will spawn a particular number of monsters, and a timer is attached to the spawners. So every once in a while, the timer will check whether or not the monster spawner is at full capacity. If it isn't, then it tries to spawn monsters. Currently I can spawn all the monsters that are missing, or just one at a time, which is what I'm doing now. And that's working really well and helping me test stuff out. So let's get into combat and look at a couple other things I've done. So as you can see, a few things have changed. Firstly, only one monster spawned in this fight. I've got it working now where you basically get anywhere from 1 to 4 monsters in a fight, and it's random. As before, the first monster that is spawned into the fight is the one that was chasing the player, of course. Additionally, I've got this red indicator here, and this is supposed to indicate what you're targeting. Right now it's very simple, and it only really checks what monster your mouse was hovering over last. But my hope is that I'll be able to extend this system to work with keyboard controls for people who don't want to use a mouse, or for controller support. The main reason I wanted to do this right now, though, was because I wanted a way to indicate what is selected on this target panel that I've created to the left. In this little panel, you'll be able to see information about the target, including their level and their remaining HP. And this felt like an easy way to be able to inspect enemy monsters. Additionally, now, the corrupted monsters that you fight can have different levels. Now, I'm going about that in a very, very simple way. Basically, I just type in what level I want the enemies to be, and they all spawn at that level. In the future, I'm thinking that different zones will have different ranges of levels for enemies. So for example, you might go to the forest and enemies there might be from level 1 to level 10, whereas in the mountains, maybe enemies are from level 10 to level 15. But I don't have any of that functionality right now, so I just wanted a quick and easy way to change the enemy levels. Well, let me show you how I'm doing that. Alright, so taking a quick look at this monster encounter manager and the inspector, this is what's managing the enemies that get spawned into the battle. I've got a setting for whether or not I want a random number of enemies, and for how many enemies can spawn total. I've also got a list of monsters here that currently is just a master list of all the monsters I've got. And here I can change the enemy level. So let's change it to something like 6, which will make for a tougher fight. And we might be able to see their HP dropping in the inspector. Alright, so here we go. If I hover over them, you can see that now they are level 6, and their stats have increased accordingly. And if I attack one, you can see that the change in their HP is reflected in the little inspector. In the future, I'll try to make this a little bit nicer, but for now, it's really nice to be able to see how much health a monster has during combat. Here in the summary screen now, you can also see how much XP each monster earned during combat. That way you can get a better idea of how much you're earning and how much you need for the next level. The amount earned is also variable. The way it works is that there's a base amount of XP that you earn for defeating a monster, and then that amount is modified by the defeated monster's level, and then that amount is added up to all the other monsters that you defeated in combat. So higher level monsters and more monsters defeated means more XP. I think that's going to be a good place to leave it for this episode. I'm really happy with this new, more simple leveling system, and I think it's a lot of fun just watching your monsters level up, so I think I'm on the right track with this. Soon I really hope to expand upon it some more. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this devlog. If you did, hit the like button and consider subscribing to see more of Amber Roots. As always, thanks for watching.